Welcome to Practical Talk Time. I'm your host, Usha Kumar. I have here with me today Kelly Mullins from the Women's Center of Greater Danbury. And she's here to talk to us about cyber issues and sexting. Hello, Kelly.
Hello.
How do you do today?
Wonderful, and I'm very glad to be here.
I want to know how you got into Women's Center.
Well, I started with the Women's Center as a volunteer. I think it was about 4 years ago that I saw an ad in the newspaper about volunteer training. So I called and I went in and I did the training program, and I was a hotline operator for quite a while. And then I was hired to work at the Women's Center at our shelter. And then I became an educator, which is what I do now, is I'm a prevention educator.
What does the Women's Center do?
Well, we are a nonprofit social service agency. We're located right here in Danbury on West Street. That's our main office. And what we do is we help victims and their families who are dealing with domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, sexual harassment. All of the services that we offer at the Women's Center are completely free. And even though we're called the Women's Center, we are for men, women, and children of all ages.
So it should be the Family Center.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story because the Women's Center started 35 years ago. It was just dealing with women's issues. And it was a very small organization with 4 wonderful women who started it to help women in the community. And since then, we've grown into a much larger organization.
How big is it now?
Well, we have about 20 to 25 employees, hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of wonderful volunteers that, without, we really couldn't run the organization. But I think it says a lot that a nonprofit organization has actually lasted for 35 years in the community. And we have counseling services. People can come in for counseling. We have 2 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotlines. We have a shelter, a separate location for women and children who are fleeing a violent situation or a violent person.
So is there a phone number for the Women's Center?
The Women's Center, our main number is 203-731-5200, and that's for information. But our hotline numbers for 24/7, I'll give you both those numbers. For domestic violence, it's 203-731-5206. Or for sexual assault crisis hotline is 203-731-5204. And again, 24 hours a day, someone can call if they have a question, if they know somebody who's in a situation and they want to learn how can I help this person. The hotline, that's the number to call.
And do you have people that stay at the Women's Center, or do you provide housing for anybody?
We've run a separate shelter and provide housing for people who have to get away from someone who, would actively look for them or would hurt them. And it's in an undisclosed location, obviously, and it's for women and their children. It's a 13-bed shelter. And if a man came in who is in a domestic violence situation, we would also, of course, help him, but he would be housed in a different location.
Okay.
And it's a shelter is a necessary thing, unfortunately, and certainly wish that it wasn't. And we try to provide and make it as nice as possible for the people who have to come there. No one wants to go to a shelter. It's not some place that people want to go, but we work very hard to try to offer as many services to them, to try to help someone, create a new life, get back on their feet, get the kind of counseling that they need and the support services.
So in addition to providing shelter for those who seek your help, do you also go out and educate the public regarding all the dangers, the violence that exist in society?
We do, and one of the ways we do it is with programs like yours, of course. Our community education department, We work with school systems. I start working with children when they're in preschool. I have little puppets, and we do a puppet show for them about feelings. So they start to recognize what are they feeling. If they're feeling angry because, you know, you took my toy, I don't walk up and push you down. All right, I recognize my anger, and then we teach them, well, what do you do with that anger? How do you assert yourself in a healthy way? We talk about bullying. We do safe, unsafe touch. So children start to recognize, wait a minute, I'm feeling strange, someone is touching me, is this okay, not okay? And we teach them that they can say no, even to an adult, if they're, you know, have a feeling that this is not right, or someone is doing something that they don't like. We work with right up through the high school and college age, talking about sexual harassment, dating violence, which unfortunately is rampant in our society. At least 60% of teens, by the time they graduate from high school, will experience some sort of violent dating relationship.
Well, that sounds awful.
Yeah, 60%.
60% is very high.
It's a big percentage, and that's why we really try very hard to be in as many schools.
What kind of violence do they experience?
Anything from verbal, you know, name calling, shouting at someone, trying to intimidate them. Emotional, where someone is trying to put somebody down, kind of undermine their self-confidence, have control over them. Because really that's what dating violence is about one person having power and control over another. They experience physical violence. There's also sexual violence, being forced or coerced into having some sort of sexual behavior that they don't want to do. And there's something we call economic, where perhaps someone feels that they have to do something because their partner is generous financially, but takes them to dinner, buys them things, you know, creates a sense of obligation. So all of those things, we're in schools for all of those, and as well we do sexual assault presentations so that students start to understand what is consent, what does that mean, what are the laws about consent, how do I, you know, protect myself, how do I help my friend. So we do a lot in a lot of schools.
Yeah. Is it better when children graduate from schools and they get a little older?
Well,
at that age, you know, in that age group, are they still having the same problems as they had as teenagers? Or
a lot of times there will be a pattern unless someone recognizes, you know, why am I with this person, or why am I being abusive? Unless they start to really recognize why this is happening, they will continue to choose partners who are either treat them as a victim or victimize them, or people that they can bully and be violent with. So there is a direct correlation and a pattern that can happen. If a child grows up in a household where there's domestic violence, they identify in two ways. They will either become a person who is, you know, they may start out being a bully as a child, and they may eventually go into relationships and dating relationships where they are violent with their partner. And then that can lead to, you know, spousal situations where there's domestic violence. Children in domestic violence households may also identify with the person who's the victim, and they may start having relationships where they continue to choose people who will victimize them.
so they choose bullies to be their partners.
So they would choose someone.
That would be sad.
Right.
So educating them would at least make them see what is wrong with that kind of a pattern behavior.
Right, and educating them about what is dating violence, what is sexual assault, what does consent mean, and helping to build self-esteem. These are primary preventative measures to changing this our society's view of these behaviors.
Children, as they're growing up nowadays, they are exposed to a lot of material on television and on their internet.
Right.
So Can you tell us something about the cyber issues of this and sexting?
Yes.
And if you can explain these terminologies to our audience, it'll be great.
And because we're hearing so much about this on the news constantly, it's important that we all recognize what is it, what are they talking about, and what do we do about it. We're hearing a lot about cyberbullying, which can be name-calling online, anything online trying to degrade someone, rude messages, starting rumors and gossip, trying to get other people involved to almost attack another person online.
Ganging up on one
Ganging
person.
up on someone. It's almost like a feeding frenzy. And this is cyberbullying. They might create something called a hate website or a poll where they'll say something, ask a question. You know, is so-and-so ugly? Check yes or no. And then they send this to all the students, and the students will participate in it.
Oh.
So you can imagine...
And then I'm sure they'll post the results too.
Right, and you can imagine what a child who is victim of this must be feeling. Anything from depression and anger, frustration, tremendous effects in not going to school anymore, grades drop, loss of friendships, self-esteem, some very...
Have there been any extreme reactions?
A lot of
people committing suicide? I think I saw in the paper some time ago.
Unfortunately, it's happening more and more that, you know, it used to be if a child was bullied at school, they'd get off the bus and they'd be home and it was safe. All right, finally I'm home, no one can bother me. But with cyber, it's right through the walls of our homes, it's through the wires, it's wireless, it's on the computer. And most of the time, somebody gets home from school, a kid, and the first thing they want to do is they want to check their Facebook account. They want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so this cyberbullying follows them home day and night. That's one thing that makes it even more severe. The other thing is it's not just the schoolyard bully where it's 5 or 6 kids are experiencing or seeing a child's embarrassment. Now the entire school.
The whole world.
And the
even
whole
now.
school. Right.
It's not even, it's the whole world now.
The whole world.
Your relative in Australia could be seeing it.
Exactly, exactly. So with this magnitude, what has been happening is very young children have felt there's no way out. They couldn't find a way to get help, and there have been a number of suicides across the country.
So did anyone take anyone to task? Was anyone punished at all?
There have been, sometimes what's happening now is that the schools are being sued by the parents. It's a big issue between if something happens outside of school and a child is cyberbullying, well, is that the school's responsibility? Now the school might say no, but the parents might say yes. And cyberbullying, it is bullying, and all schools do have bullying policies.
So who's to enforce? The teachers?
Well, exactly.
Don't they have enough work teaching?
Exactly, and this is one of the issues: is how is it possible to police this? And the internet is a very lawless world, and very difficult to police. Yeah. So this is one of the big issues, and it's something that legislators are really struggling with, and organizations like ours, and trying to find out, well, how do we help? What do we do to help people in these situations?
So what are your statistics for this kind of bullying?
With cyberbullying?
Do you get a lot of complaints?
When I'm in schools, I hear about it all the time.
Otherwise, the Women's Center by itself is not involved in
Well, yes, the Women's Center is involved. And if somebody is experiencing something with a cyberbullying situation and they're not sure what to do, definitely reporting or calling the Women's Center. And in fact, they can call me at the Women's Center. I'm more than happy to take anyone's call. So they can call and ask for Kelly. I'm the only Kelly at the Women's Center. So they can call and ask for me. And I can really talk them through some of the things that they can do. One of the things being, if someone's being cyberbullied, you must keep a record of what's happening. A lot of times, you know, we're tempted to either respond in anger or delete and ignore. However, cyberbullying is a repeated process. It's going to happen over and over again, and one way to help is to keep a record of what somebody is doing or saying about you. Talk to parents, talk to the school about it, make sure that people know this is happening. You can report it to the police, absolutely. If there are threats online, and this is also happening, children threatening other children. I'm going to get you after school, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to hurt your family. Those are absolute threats that need to be reported to the police. And there's also the cyber safety tip line.
Yeah, in the good old days, I think, you know, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, you've always heard people, they say, I'm going to kill you, and they never really act out on that.
Right.
But then do we have to be really afraid now, or would it be overreacting, or?
Well, you know what? It's very difficult to say, because if you look at situations, for example, Columbine, where school shooters come into the school and they have planned out some sort of massacre. 90% of school shooters, when people look back,
But they were themselves bullied.
They were
weren't
bullied.
They
They were bullied.
And
yeah.
nobody stopped that.
Yeah, and it can be very difficult to stop. That's why when I talk about bullying issues, it has to be what I call the five-pronged process. You have to educate the child who's the target, help them. You have to help the child who's doing the bullying to understand what they're doing, and there have to be consequences. The children who are witnessing this, the bystanders, teaching them that, you know what, they have the power to step in and stop it. They don't have to follow the crowd. The school has to be involved. The parents have to be involved. And together, this five-pronged approach is about changing the societal view of what bullying is. How do we help these kids?
Can you tell us about sexting?
Yes.
What is it? This looks like a new word.
It's another big issue, and sexting is taking or sending nude or semi-nude pictures through a cell phone. It's texting a naked picture, all right? Simply, students, children are sending these pictures to each other.
Of themselves.
Of
They're taking
themselves.
pictures of themselves and
Right.
sending it to their friends.
Right.
Okay.
They'll send a picture of themselves. Now, it could be partially nude. It could be something that's a sexually provocative pose, or it could be a totally nude photo. Maybe they send it to a boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe they think it's a joke and I'm going to send it to my friend. And what happens is either the boyfriend and girlfriend break up, or friends show it to other friends, or they forward it, and then it ends up on the internet. And then we're talking about, you know, not only family, friends, the school, teachers seeing it, but also every predator out there now has access to pictures.
Would you, is that a crime? Is that considered a crime?
And it actually, it is, and there's, across this country, children, students are being arrested because when a child is under 18 and anyone who possesses a picture of a child who's under 18 or sends a picture of a child who's under 18, a nude photo sexually suggestive, that's considered distribution of child pornography or possession of child
So
pornography.
even if they do it for a joke, or they think they're only sending to their friends,
Right.
they
Right.
can be accused of this serious crime. I don't know how many people would know that even.
Well, and it's happening more and more, and these students are being arrested, and even someone, let's say a 16-year-old girl, for example, sends a nude picture of herself to her boyfriend.
Yeah.
She actually can get in trouble for creating and sending child pornography,
Okay.
even though it's a picture of herself, because she's under 18. And arrests are being made. There have been young men who have been arrested. They've done jail time. They've also been put on the sex offender registry because they forwarded these pictures
To others.
to others.
And it should be a crime. And the thing is, people should be aware of it. Is that why you go to schools and talk to them about this? So you're
Absolutely.
doing this community educating
Right.
project now.
Right. And keeping up with all of the cyber stuff that happens is, you have to be right on top of it because it changes constantly. And just like with sexting, sending these pictures, law enforcement didn't know what to do with it. Technically, it was child pornography. However, these are
Just friends sending things to each other.
right.
Or it could be personal.
Right.
It's not public.
And part of it is that students still don't realize, well, I'm just sending it to someone who's my friend. And even then, the picture can get out, and they think that it's not
Yeah.
going to.
How can it get out?
One way that this was found, a student was looking at his phone in school,
Yeah.
and the phone was confiscated because they weren't supposed to have their phones out.
Yeah.
The teacher saw nude photos. That was a big case in Pennsylvania where 6 teenagers were arrested in that case. Another case was a student simply lost their cell phone. A Good Samaritan picks it up and says, oh, let me look
Yeah.
through it and see if I
Now
can
he
find who
sees
owns
somebody.
it, sees the pictures. Another thing that we've discovered is when someone either takes a picture, receives a text, sends a text on their cell phone, the cell phone company
Records.
has a database of all of that. And that information just sits there unless, if someone hacks into it, that information can be all over the internet, which is one of the things that happens. There is an underground pornography that hacks into databases, takes out pictures, and then, if there was a picture on my cell phone, it could end up on pornography websites I wouldn't even know about it.
So one should be really, really careful what they do with their technology and their little cell phones.
Extremely careful about it. And again, it's young people are thinking, well, it won't happen to me. I won't be caught. I'm just sending it to my boyfriend or girlfriend. And it's really not that simple. And then what can happen is the whole school finds out that this picture is out there. Then the cyberbullying and the in-person bullying starts because someone who has sent that picture, everybody sees it, everybody starts making fun of that person.
Okay.
And
So
that
these
also,
are connected.
absolutely
Okay.
connected. And that also, unfortunately, has led to some teens committing suicide because they sext a picture, it gets out on the internet, and then they're cyberbullied to a point that they can't take it anymore.
And then where does the harassment come in?
As far
in
as
terms of the
sexual
this-
harassment?
Yes.
Now, sexual harassment is any kind of unwanted, unwelcome conduct, online, offline, doesn't matter, of a sexual or sexist nature. So even words that people are using or commenting about someone's looks or their sexuality or their sexual preference, anything like that can be considered a sexual harassment. And so if someone has sent a picture, they've been horribly harassed by it, in school, called every kind of name, which I won't say here, but that's exactly what happens. Then they become sexually harassed, they become bullied in person and online. And there are laws against sexual harassment. In school, the Title IX law requires the school to protect a child from sexual harassment. And that means also on the internet if there's a link to the school. So if a child from school is sexually harassing another child online, the school is required to do something about it. And also once you get into a lot of these internet issues, the police can become involved with it.
And also any supervising adult, right, for the children, whether at home or in another place.
Right.
Again, the same rules apply.
The same-
Being cautious, not allowing them to, go online or be texting and sexting freely.
Right, right. And that's part of the safety rules that we try to instill in not only the students from the time they're very young, but also with the parents, that, you know, no cell phones, no laptops go upstairs to the sleeping area, to the bedrooms. There's a common area, for example, in the kitchen. At night, everybody's cell phone, everybody's laptop stays right there. This helps so that they don't have that private time to take pictures or do things at night, that a lot of times this is when some of this is happening. You know, computer in a common room where you can see what they're doing, what they're sending. Teaching them these rules, educating them about what can happen if you take a picture like this.
When someone is harassed like this, not by school or anyone from school, but from outside,
So even
or from some stranger that you know,
right,
you really don't want to be contacted by that stranger.
right.
What can they do? What should
Well,
parents do, and what can the children do?
And if it's on the internet, immediately block this person, the number. Absolutely use all the blocks and filters and monitoring systems that you possibly can. And contact authorities. If there's any threatening behavior or sexual exploitation of children. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a tip line. That's one that you absolutely can use, and reporting it is not only helpful for your own situation, but anybody else's.
A lot of people would think that is a lot of trouble, you know, to file a complaint, provide all the records, and they don't want their name to be coming out everywhere. So,
well, and one of the things to think about in situations like that is that if it's happening to me or my child, it's happening to somebody else too. So if you can think about it in the bigger picture, that can also help. And a lot of times, if something doesn't happen or if someone doesn't intervene, this continues and continues and continues. Predators online will hack into people's accounts.
We only have about 10 seconds left.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming and explaining so much about the cyber bullying and sexting and all of the things that we didn't know about some years ago. I mean, this is all so new to us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for watching. Until next time, goodbye.